Data Protection Officer DPO training, GDPR compliance. In today's digital economy, personal data has become one of the most valuable assets for organizations. However, with increased data collection, processing, and cross-border transfers, regulatory scrutiny and compliance obligations have intensified. One of the most significant global regulations governing personal data protection is the General Data Protection Regulation or GDPR. This session provides a technical overview of the data protection officer role and the core GDPR compliance requirements that organizations must understand and implement. First, understanding GDPR scope and applicability. GDPR is not limited to organizations located within the European Union. Its territorial reach extends to any organization that offers goods or services to individuals in the EU, monitors the behavior of EU residents, processes personal data of individuals located in the EU. This territorial scope means that companies worldwide, including those in India, the Middle East, Asia, and the Americas, may be subject to GDPR obligations. Second, GDPR data protection principles. Article 5. At the heart of GDPR lie the data protection principles which govern how personal data must be handled. Lawfulness, fairness, and transparency, purpose limitation, data minimization, accuracy, storage limitation, integrity and confidentiality, accountability. The accountability principle is particularly important. It requires organizations not only to comply but to demonstrate compliance through documented evidence. Third, lawful basis for processing. Article 6. Personal data processing is only permitted if at least one lawful basis applies. Consent, contractual necessity, legal obligation, vital interests, public task, legitimate interests. Selecting the correct lawful basis is a legal and operational decision. Misclassification can lead to regulatory penalties. Fourth, special categories of data. Article 9. Certain types of data require enhanced protection. Health data, biometric data, geometric data, genetic data, racial or ethnic origin, political opinions, religious beliefs. Processing such data is generally prohibited unless specific conditions are met, such as explicit consent or legal authorization. Fifth, data subject rights. GDPR grants individuals strong rights over their personal data. Right of access, right to rectification, right to erasure, right to be forgotten, right to restrict processing, right to data portability, right to object, rights related to automated decision making. Organizations must establish procedures to respond to these requests within strict timelines, typically 30 days. Sixth, role of the data protection officer. Article 37 to 39. A data protection officer is mandatory for public authorities, organizations conducting large-scale monitoring, organizations processing large-scale special category data. The DPO's responsibilities include advising on GDPR compliance, monitoring internal compliance, conducting audits, advising on DPIAs, serving as a contact point with supervisory authorities. Importantly, the DPO must operate with independence and cannot be penalized for performing their duties. Seventh, records of processing activities. ROPA. Article 30. Organizations must maintain documented records detailing types of personal data processed, purpose of processing, categories of data subjects, data recipients, retention periods, security safeguards. ROPA functions as a compliance backbone and is often requested during regulatory inspections. Eighth, Data Protection Impact Assessment (DPIA). Article 35. A DPIA is required when processing activities pose high risks to individuals' rights, such as large-scale profiling, use of new technologies, systematic monitoring. DPIA involves identifying risks, evaluating necessity and proportionality, defining mitigation measures. Ninth, privacy by design and default. Article 25. Privacy must be embedded into systems and processes from the design stage, not added later. Examples include data minimization in system architecture, default privacy settings, role-based access controls. 10th, security of processing, Article 32. Organizations must implement appropriate technical and organizational measures. Encryption, pseudonymization, access controls, incident detection mechanisms, business continuity safeguards. Security measures must align with the risk level associated with processing. Then next is personal data breach management, Article 33-34. GDPR defines a breach as unauthorized access, accidental loss, destruction, alteration, disclosure. Requirements include notification to supervisory authority within 72 hours, communication to affected individuals when high risk exists, breach documentation and root cause analysis. Then next is controller versus processor responsibilities. Controller determines purpose and means of processing. Processor processes data on behalf of the controller. Clear contractual agreements must define responsibilities, especially regarding security, sub-processing, breach notification, data deletion. Then 13th is cross-border data transfers. Chapter 5. Transfers outside the EU require safeguards, adequacy decisions, standard contractual clauses, binding corporate rules. Improper international transfers are a major enforcement focus. Then next 14, compliance monitoring, audits and accountability. Organizations must implement internal audits, compliance reviews, policy updates, staff awareness programs, risk assessment. Compliance is an ongoing life cycle, not a one-time activity. Then 15th, risk-based approach. GDPR emphasizes proportionality. Higher risk means stronger controls. Lower risk means lighter controls. Risk assessment drives security investment. TPIA necessity, governance decisions. 16th, practical implementation challenges. Organizations commonly struggle with legacy systems, data mapping complexity, vendor management, consent mechanisms, breach response readiness. Training, governance, and structured frameworks are critical for effective implementation. At last conclusion, the GDPR is more than a legal regulation. It is a data governance framework that reshapes how organizations manage privacy, security, and accountability. The data protection officer plays a central role in ensuring regulatory compliance, reducing organizational risk, building stakeholder trust, embedding privacy culture. For professional training and certification programs, email us info@urgsiso.com, mobile +917359458455. Thank you.